Hello there, I'm going to do a very quick review, or an overview I should say, of the HTC S740. The S740 is a Windows 6.1 standard smartphone. It incorporates a candy bar factor with a full slide-out QWERTY keyboard, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the hardware. So on the front you've obviously got the screen, which we'll go over in a second. You've got a numeric keypad with 4 hardware functioning buttons. You've got a soft key, a right soft key, back button, or home button I should say, and back button, and you've got the D-pad with a middle button, which does illuminate when you have a new notification or when it's charging. Looking on the top, you have nothing except for the on button. On the right hand side you have the camera button. Camera is 3.2 megapixels, no flash. On the bottom you have the Samsung HTC proprietary jack, which does work with mini USB, which is quite nice. And on the left hand side you have volume rocker switch. On the back, as I mentioned, you have the 3.2 megapixel camera with no flash, and you have this interesting diamond patterned backing, which is quite interesting. The phone does feel quite good in hand. It's very, I would say the build quality is above average. There's no real wiggling to the screen. It does feel firm. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall out of your hands. That you can get a nice grip. Moving on to the top here, you've got a couple of sensors. I believe this is an ambient light sensor, which detects when you're in a call, and it will shut off the screen when it is against your face to prevent any, to prevent battery life from decreasing. And you also have a speaker on the back here. Looking at the QWERTY keyboard, you can see it's a reasonably good sized keyboard, nice and spacious. The enter button I think is a little bit too big, and the space button could have been bigger. I have had problems typing on this and using the space button because it's too small. The keyboard is reasonably easy to use. They're a bit flat, and you can't really tell when you're pressing another button. So, for example, when you roll your finger on, you can't really feel a difference between the keys. So that's a bit of a bum. So, you might have to look at the keyboard while you're typing. So, furthermore, the technical specifications. So the tech specs are the 2G networks are GSM 850, 900, 1800, and 1900. 3G, it does HSDPA 900 and 2100. The dimensions, it's 16.3 millimeters thick, so it's reasonably thick, but that's because of the QWERTY keyboard. It can do 65,000 colors, and the resolution is 240 by 320 across, and the screen is 2.43 inches. 2.4 inches, sorry, I should say. It also does take micro SD card. And it does have 256 megabytes of RAM and 256 megabytes of ROM. So, usability, I've found the phone to be reasonably usable, I have to say, for writing emails, text messages. I have found this phone to be quite good for use. But, however, there are some pros and cons, obviously. So, the pros. Some of the pros I've encountered are, it's very productive, as I said. The keyboard does make it productive. As I said, it's full QWERTY, and it's very spacious, so typing emails is not a problem, except for obviously when I mentioned the keys are a bit flat, but they're usable. And quick access to the comms manager and task manager. So this is something that you might not really care about, but this is something that's important to me. Using the HTC HD2, it's quite hard to get to the comms manager, which means which radios you switch on and off. So it's the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, the radio, the antenna for the cellular antenna. Getting to those kind of menu options, you have to dig deep quite into the software, which is a bit of a pain in the backside. But nevertheless, with this phone, all you do is press the top button. First, you have to unlock it, obviously. So you press the top button, and as you can see, or hopefully see, you've got Task Manager and Comms Manager there. And as I said, on the HTC HD2, it's quite hard to get there. So I like that. Battery life on this phone is brilliant, I've found. Not sure exactly what the size of the battery is, actually. I'll put that in the description of the video. So the battery life I've found to last very long. I would say I can get at least 2.5 days out of general use. Not intensive use, obviously, so bear that in mind. If you have this phone or you plan to get this phone, it might differ depending on what you use it for. couple of the cons is that it can be laggy, and that's not because of the hardware. Well, it could be partially because of the hardware, and it's also because of Windows Mobile 6.1 itself is quite laggy. There are times when it could take quite a few seconds just to rotate the screen and dig into the start menu. So let's see if let's try something a bit more reasonable. Let's try opening Internet Explorer. That wasn't a really fair test because it's already open, but take my word for it. It can be sometimes quite laggy, sometimes it can't, especially with screen rotation. Let's see if we can get it to do it now. So we've got this interesting HTC add-on where you rotate the screen, you can get quick access to your messages. So let's see, got the basics today screen, rotate it, and you see it does take quite a while just to rotate. And obviously the other con is that is the keyboard. That's the only other cons I found, apart from its hardware isn't particularly high, but I guess this phone is a couple of years old, so at the time this would have been quite reasonable hardware. But other than that, I found the phone to be quite useful. One other con I found is it doesn't have a 3.5mm headphone jack, which means listening to music on this is going to be a bit of a pain because you have to use this proprietary jack, and finding headphones with a mini USB attachment is practically impossible unless you go to some specialist hardware store or whatever. There'll be more to come and software tour over this phone, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Bye.